Hi, beach friends! Today we hit the road and we're going to be checking out a brand new beach on the east coast of Florida, Dania Beach. Now, normally I'm roaming the beaches on the opposite side of the state, so it will be nice to see a brand new beach as well as the Atlantic Ocean for a change. I'm going to find a few things I've been looking for, as well as a few things I've never seen before. So we'll walk this beach and see what is out there for us to discover. I'm also going to show you the methods I use to identify the shells that I find that I don't know what they are. And we're going to pay a quick visit to a West Coast beach at the end of the video just for a quick comparison. So if you're ready to see what treasures are waiting for us today, let's go to the beach. So here we are on the east coast of Florida. I was greeted by a little lizard. Hey, friend. And so this is Dania Beach. I'm always excited when I get to see a new beach, especially one that's on the complete opposite side of the state. So I got down there, did a little checking around, and at this point there isn't really much of anything on the beach. There's nothing down by the water. I'm checking up here in the higher rack lines. You can see where the tides have washed all those grasses up onto the sand. So I'm just kind of walking around. Now, one of the reasons I chose to come here was because there is a nice stretch of beach with no houses or hotels or condos or even parking lots. And when you zoom in, you'll just kind of see it's just the beach here and there's nothing really behind it. So I was really kind of hoping that it would be a little more secluded and that there would also be a bunch of goodies here. So I am still kind of looking around. This first lump that I come upon is pretty impressive. Now, this is kind of like something you'd find on the West Coast, whether that be a lightning whelk or a horse conch. That I think is some sort of helmet maybe. I'm not really as familiar with those type of shells, but I'm feeling like maybe it's promising. Maybe we'll find something a little smaller or at least something intact. There I see a couple of the birds that I see on the West Coast, some terns. And then here is a rock. It's not terribly exciting, but that will come into play later on. So we'll just leave that rock there. So I'm checking all over. I'm checking in the water. I'm checking the middle of the beach. I'm checking all the way up here just in case. I'm not as familiar with these beaches, so you never know. I'm wandering all over. And the tide is going out, so I was kind of hoping that that would help my search for beach treasures. And here we have an ark. That is a blood ark. I had found my first one in my usual stomping grounds on the West Coast, so kind of fun to find a blood ark over here. Excellent. And I did find quite a few of these little white shells. I don't know what it is. Kind of has the shape of perhaps a small giant bittersweet, but I just don't know. And they were so small. Pretty little things. I did find a bunch of them, but not sure what they are. But not to worry, we're gonna find a bunch of other things, and I'm gonna go through the process and showing you what I do to identify shells. So this shell here, there is a very distinct line kind of going through that shell there. So I get out what I consider to be my shell Bible. This is the book that I refer to on a constant basis. And I thought that the shell that I saw looked very similar to this Pennsylvania lucine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double check. I'm going to find out what family this is in. So this is in the family Lucinidae. And then I'm going to head on over to a website to double confirm. So the website that I like to use is the Sanibel Shell Museum Shell Guide. The URL is shellmuseum.org. I will put that in the description box below. And when you get to the Shell Guide, you can type in names for things are like common shells over in this area, but I know that I'm specifically searching Lucinidae. So I'm going to find that family of shells. And what that does is the shells that are kind of similar looking will be grouped in this family. And so I go through here and I see, oh, is that the Pennsylvania Lucine? So let's click on that. And yep. So that is what I'm thinking that shell is. I just wanted to kind of double confirm. I don't find them all the time. So that is one of many methods that I use to identify shells. So here we have a little bit of a beat up Pennsylvania Lucine, and that's okay. At least I'm finding a shell. And I'm noticing that the slope of the beach is much steeper than the slope of the beaches we have on the West Coast. Typically, our beaches are a lot flatter, so it's much easier for things to kind of get washed up on the beach. Now, I do see stuff kind of in the break line there, and eventually I'll make my way over there. But in the meantime, I found this. So this is a Portuguese man of war, and it is a highly venomous open ocean predator that superficially resembles a jellyfish, but this is actually a siphonophore. Now, each of these man-o'-war critters is actually a colony of several small individual organisms called zooids, and they each have a specialized job, and they cannot live apart from each other. You'll see how close to the ocean I found this critter. So there's 4 different jobs that all these little organisms had. One is the float, to keep it floating on the ocean surface. One is a series of long tentacles that are covered with stinging cells to kill their prey. They also have a rudimentary digestive system and a simple reproductive system. So this is not a jellyfish. This is a siphonophore. I think it's really pretty and beautiful. I'm really glad I got to see that. Here we have a little scallop. It was very windy that day. Here we have a little scallop. I'm not exactly sure what kind. Real happy that I'm finding something intact. Maybe that's a rough scallop. It's possible. I'm just not as familiar with the stuff on the other side of the state. And then this did look organic. So it didn't look like garbage. It did, because there was a little bit of garbage on the beach, which was a bummer. But this did look organic, so I tried to figure out what it was. I didn't see it. There was some sort of neat grasses and stuff on the beach. But it's really, this beach is making me hunt. It is making me work to find the shells. Here we have a ponderous arc. That is one of the arcs that I do find on a regular basis. And then when you get down into the sand here and you kind of look, it's not tiny shells. It's really just broken pieces. So there's not much of an opportunity, at least here where I am, to even look for tiny shells. Right here, you see this little smattering, and it's just broken bits. So I'm kind of going through, you never know, maybe there's something kind of small in there that might be fun. So I'm really scouring to kind of see what I'm going to find there. Kind of felt like Sherlock Holmes. I'm finding a piece of this, a piece of that. That is a piece of flat scallop, so I am familiar with that. It's unfortunate that it's broken. Those are great shells to find. But that is just most of a flat scallop. And then I did find like half of a Florida fighting conch. So, okay, excellent. Again, felt like Sherlock Holmes trying to figure out what the stuff I was finding is. This I knew what it was. That is a little mossy arc. So that's kind of like the weird cousin of the turkey wing. It is intact. All right, fantastic. A little mossy arc. And then this is a corrugated jewel box. It's most of one. It is broken. They come in real pretty colors. So that is most of a corrugated jewel box. And I'm telling you, I'm looking. There's some pieces. Little bit of this, not too much to scan. All right, here is one of those spectral bittersweets. It is a bit on the faded side, but that is a giant bittersweet, although it's quite tiny. So there's little things here, and I know that the beat changes, so I'm just gonna kind of keep at it. Did find this comb bittersweet, not in great condition, but at least I know what it is. That is a comb bittersweet, and so is this one. So I managed to find 2 of those fun little shells. Was kind of hoping they'd have a little bit more color, but look, at this point, I'm just going to take what I can get. So I did look for those bittersweets. I was really hoping they just looked like candy. They're so great. And I did come across a couple of them, but none of them were really in great shape, which was a bummer for me because that was something that I was really looking forward to finding. So I did get a couple of them. And then eventually I was able to find one that had that classic kind of candy striping color. So at least I did manage to find one of those kind of pretty spectral bittersweet clams. Yay! And this I thought for sure was an egg cockle, but I flip it over and that is a slipper snail. Now, if you're ever asking someone to ID a shell for you, you're always going to want to show them the top and the bottom because there's lots of little tidbits of information on both sides of that shell to check out. And then this is a turtle nest, and I noticed that it has the cage on top of it. So that means that there's some sort of critters around, whether it be raccoons, foxes, or something. So that kind of makes me look, which is nice. That's why I kind of picked coming here because there was a lot of natural surrounding habitat around. So that is a sea turtle nest and another siphonophore, that Portuguese man-o-war. Super duper cool. And no, I didn't even consider touching it. Not even nothing. Nope. I just took some pictures and went on my way. So I am planning on walking as far as I possibly can to the end of this little strip of beach. The tide is still going out, although I'm not so sure it's really helping me all that much. But I am kind of trying to look to see if perhaps the shell's going to get washed up. Most of those other lumps that you're kind of seeing are those rocks, kind of like that first one I found up on the beach. But I'm not giving up. I'm still going to walk, cover as much beach as I can, see what else is out there. So that is a giant bittersweet, a little bit of color on it. Fantastic. Don't find those very often, so happy to see that little clam shell. Oh, and this one. So look at the pattern. I don't know if you can see it, but I was just fascinated. This is a cross-hatched lucine. And so the actual pattern on the shell is just beautiful. Let me just stop that so you can really kind of see the pattern on it. It's tiny, it's hard to see, but they are beautiful. And they have, just like I said, that really fun cross-hatched texture to it. And this I found, oh, friend. So this is a cross-barred Venus clam. That's one of the most ubiquitous little shells that I typically find. So I was kind of happy. It's like seeing an old friend. So I found a little cross-barred Venus clam, and I saw all the equipment going on down here, and I thought, ooh, maybe they're doing dredging, or maybe this is just going to be something fantastic that I'll come upon. But no, not so much. I was only allowed to go so far. It looks like they are replenishing, but no dredging, which means they're not really digging up shells from the ocean floor, unfortunately. So that's as far as I'm going to be able to walk here. And I was thinking about the job of that gentleman sitting in the chair. So his job is to make sure people don't walk down the beach. Kind of nice way to spend the day. And I figured this is a great time for you to also have some beach time. All right, I'm still at it, still looking for goodies. And this little clam shell I thought might be familiar, but since I'm on a coast that I'm not familiar with and it is so very worn down, I wanted to double check. So another system that I use to ID shells is iNaturalist.com. That is the website. So I go over there and I'm able to post pictures of the shells to see what they may be. I did do that, and as it turns out, somebody did identify that shell as a calico clam. So I suspected that's what it was. That is indeed what it ended up being. And so just another resource for you to figure out your shells is iNaturalist.com. So it looks like I'm going to take home a little bit of a worn calico clam, and that is okay. At least it's a shell. So right at this point, it's tough to find anything in the water. So I'm just walking right at the edge, kind of hoping that that water is going to push something up. And then I'm also hoping at slack tide, right here where the tide isn't really coming in or out, that maybe it'll be a little calmer and I'll be able to kind of get in the water and see if there's anything there. So this little piece of a turkey wing got washed up. I would know that little edge of shell anywhere, so that's just a little piece of turkey wing. And then I was really excited about this. So this is a red hamburger bean. I've seen pictures of them. How cool is that? That is a seed from a tropical rainforest vine native to the American tropics in the West Indies. And so that came loose. It floated its way all the way over here. I thought that was pretty darn cool. And honestly, I thought this was really cool too. So this is another one of those arcs that I've been looking for. It's called an eared arc. And I know it's broken, but I can tell from that flare on the edge of the shell that that is an eared arc. I had been looking for one, so kind of excited to finally find one. And so this is not what the water usually looks like when I'm shelling in the water. So dare I say it's a little more treacherous, but I can kind of see something in the water there. So I am really curious. I think that there's things there. So I'm going to do what I can to kind of pick and see if there's any kind of shells in there. Great. A little bit of garbage. Again, very unfortunate. Okay. So I did find this frond oyster. I like these guys because of the edges of it. It has really strong what's called radial ridges. They're very, very bumpy on the edges. And then typically these guys actually cling to the branches of soft coral. So that was the frond oyster. Here are pieces of stuff. Probably, yeah, that's a piece of something. And I'm thinking they might be thorny oysters that are just, they're nice hardy shells, but these are just kind of beat up and worn down. And I was really trying in between the rocks and the other stuff. Again, that's probably a thorny oyster. I'm not really sure. So there wasn't all that much intact or very exciting, and my ankles were getting completely beaten up by those rocks that are washing around in there. So after a little while, I kind of gave up. Figured, well, I did what I could. And the tide was a little bit calmer, so perhaps I did kind of find it at that slack tide. So I'm back up on the beach and I found this really nice hunk of coral. It's really quite pretty. And I believe this might be rose coral. It was heavy. I mean, it was a big old lump. I would have taken it if it wasn't so big and so heavy, but I just wasn't in the market for a giant piece of coral, so I'm going to leave it here. But still fun to kind of just say hi to. Hello, coral. Like an old friend, another one. So this is a prickly cockle. It's got some of that light coloring on the inside. Usually that's that bam shell. It's nice and bright, but hello, prickly cockle. And then what's hiding here? Another blood arc. Fantastic. I have a tough time usually finding them. I found 2 today. Kind of exciting. So that is another one of those plentiful arcs, the blood arc. And I saw something yellow here. And it wasn't garbage, so that was exciting. So little yellow scallop of some sort. Pretty little thing. Don't know what it is. Sorry, I can't ID that. And look at this. So that is that other Pennsylvania lucine again, but this one's in much better condition. And there was just something really beautiful about it because it was just like this milk white color. Something very simple and beautiful about that shell. So I actually was kind of happy to find that pretty Pennsylvania lucine. And then this little shell kind of looked like a coquina to me, but then again it didn't. So I did refer to iNaturalist on this one, and it was confirmed that that is a coquina. And then I saw something hiding in here. Terrific. It is the other half of that flat. Not really, that I found earlier. Perhaps it is. Probably not. Just another piece of a flat scallop, but unfortunately it's broken. And this is a cut-ribbed arc. So another one of those arc shells. That one is a cut-ribbed arc. I do happen to kind of like those. Pretty happy with that. There's another one of those cross-hatched lucine shells. That one has a little drill hole in it, so some other little critter wanted to eat the contents of that shell and drill the hole in it. And then this little weird shaped shell, I thought I remembered that shape of the shell. So once again, I did do some research on this. And this time I started with a different book. So there is another book that I'm using now, Bivalve Seashells of Florida. That's what it looks like. And what I like about this book is that one, it's concentrating on the shells of Florida. Two, that it's only going to be bivalve. So I'm going to be able to go through and only look at bivalve shells. The other thing I like about this book is that it had a couple of examples of the same shell. So sometimes you're going to find them, they're going to be a little bit worn down. Maybe the color's not going to be exact. So at least in this book, they gave you a couple of different examples, not in all of the shells, but some of them. So I suspected that little shell was a speckled tellin. So I went to iNaturalist.com. I did upload the shell, both the front and the back, and it was confirmed that it is a speckled tellin. So sometimes the research on these little shells can really take me a little bit of time, but I kind of want to get it right, and I like to learn. So that is, after all that, a speckled tellin. And then a couple more. All right, mystery. Again, probably thorny oyster. Another frond oyster. Fun. And then a zigzag arc, also known as a turkey wing. So I found a piece of one earlier. Here we have an intact one. That red splotch there, I believe, is algae. I've seen that in other videos of other people that have found shells with a little bit of red stuff on that. So that's what I'm assuming that is, because it was not coming off. And I did get a little piece of sea glass. Now, I would assume it's a little bit easier on this coast with that really strong pounding Atlantic surf to kind of beat up some of the garbage on the beach. So there is a desirable piece of garbage, sea glass. So I was really kind of marveling at the surf. I haven't seen the Atlantic in a while, and I also haven't seen any surfers. Now, every once in a while on the West Coast, if we do have a good storm go through, you will see a surfer. So that was kind of fun, seeing somebody else out there enjoying the beautiful surf. And I guess as a wrap up, or what I'm thinking is, man, if you're looking for shells, just please, just go to the West Coast. This beach really made me work for a couple of the things that I found. And before we go, one last thing, if you do plan on coming here, there is an app you're going to use. It's called Pay by Phone. The cell service isn't great here, so just download that before you get there. Now, just as a comparison, real quick, I wanted to stop by a West Coast beach, specifically one that is not great for shelling. This is Bunch Beach. I do like this beach because there's always critters. There is stuff here. But if you look at the beach, there's not a lot of shells. And what there is kind of beat up oyster shells. But unlike the East Coast, here on the West Coast, of the Southwest Coast, if you kind of get down and you look at that kind of mess, there are shells there. They may be small. So here is a rose petal tellin. And here's a little ladder horn. So when we took a look at the beach earlier, it was just broken stuff. Here there is broken stuff, but there's also real small intact shells. So this is another little, this is a coquina, a little hinged pink coquina. And then here we have, this is an Atlantic marginella. It's kind of hard to show you. It's so tiny. It's got almost like little teeth on the aperture or the opening. So that's a little Atlantic marginella. And then here's a little bubble. A little egg cockle. And so I literally just kind of got to the beach, walked a little bit, start bending down, and there's the stuff. That's a worm snail. This is a little periwinkle. Those are hard to find because that is not a real marine snail. And a banded tulip of all things. Bunch, you don't usually find banded tulips, so I got lucky with that. And then I also found a little crown conch with a lot of great color on it. Terrific. And again, this is just as a comparison. I just wanted to kind of show you, just go for a couple minutes to any of the beaches here. Look, here's a dwarf olive. All right, maybe not any of the beaches, but this is the beach that I would consider to really not have a lot of shells. There's still tons of stuff to find. Here is a hinged sunray Venus clam. It's kind of buried. I'm gonna get that out of the sand, kind of terrific. So that is a sunray Venus. And then here is a little button snail. And so not only are you finding a lot of little things, but there's like a lot of like a variety to them. So this is an alternate tellin. So it's not like you're even going to come here and just find the same little tiny thing. There are other things here, and I couldn't help myself. I went and said hi to this little crown conch. Hello, friend. And then this live lightning whelk. Another gorgeous creature. So that is one of the things I like about Bunch is the critters. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here. Here, if you look right here, let's see, right there, that is a horseshoe crab. So that's another little critter. And so I literally just wanted to pop by here, found a whole bunch of shells right away, got to say hi to a couple of critters. And so all in all, I am really going to say, if you're looking for seashells and you would really like to find them, come to Southwest Florida. The East Coast definitely has some shells. It is really pretty, but it just is a whole lot easier if you're going to do your shelling over here in Southwest Florida. So that is the haul from the day. This is the stuff that we found on the East Coast. A couple of those bittersweets, couple arcs, some broken stuff, frond oysters. My favorite is probably that hamburger bean. I thought that was really, really cool. And then the stuff we got at Bunch Beach. Again, I just popped over there for a little bit. I did pick up a lot more than I showed you. So I did manage to find a couple of great things and a bunch of those tinies. So that was the whole little comparison. I'm just going to stick to the West Coast for a little while, I think. And speaking of which, I was really itching after that trip to find shells. So these are all the ones that did not make it into the final shot next week. So next week, I do promise we are going to find shells, including one of my bucket list shells. So pretty excited about that. My dearest Patreons, thank you so very much for monetarily supporting me and allowing me to go out and helping me pay for all the things that I do. And everybody else that comes along, thank you so very much. Next week, like I said, we are definitely going to find shells. It will be fun. It will be low tide, and I can't wait to share. So you have yourself a fantastic week, and I'll see you again next Sunday.